What is up, guys? SlashPlays here. Today, I have a spicy list for us. This is a deck where, for the past few weeks now, I've been looking at it, trying to assemble it and playtest it as well. I convinced my mate it's going to be a pretty good deck this coming set, so he built it. We've been doing some webcam games to try it out, and a big shout out to Ruben for playing the deck and just having a blast with it. It's a super fun deck. And without further ado, let's jump into it. Here we are. We have the Turtle School. Now, this deck is a load of fun. This is going to be more of a shorter video. Just want to more or less show you the list and give you guys a good perspective on what the cards are doing. This is such an insane deck. You're doing pretty much everything. I mean, the only thing this deck is missing is some frickin' sensu beans to restand energies, and you can do everything. It's such a good deck. You have your field card, which can play your little one drops for you. And of course, when you boost with them, though, you get minus 4k, so they're just plus ones. But you're getting them so fast. It's kind of like Vegeta Trunks, where you get to play your one drops, and now if you really need to in a pinch, you can use them as boosting material as well. And then we've got our Unison itself. This is a 1 cost, and you get to plus 2, and you give 5k to your cards that are 2 or less. It's not that good. I mean, the reason why we do it is because it can put our charismatic villains live very quick, and it's just a nuisance on the field. Plus, you can minus 4, choose your leader, give it 5k and double strike. It's fantastic. But we'll jump into the leader. So, now the leader as auto is when this card is placed in your leader area, you get to activate your field straight away. And then, of course, when this card attacks a leader or a unison, draw 1, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, and that will just be drawing 2 every turn. That's what you're going to be doing. Because the awaken side, to try and use the other ability to awaken, it's pretty tough. I mean, you have to have 3 cards that are Turtle School, that are energy cost of 3 or more on your field, which is just insane to be able to pop that off like before turn 2. So what you're doing is you're just going to take your lives down to 4, then awaken, and you can do that consistently by turn 2. So what you're doing then is you awaken, which, by the way, you get to draw 2 cards when you do. Then you will have your field card here, which is a place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck. Play 1 green Turtle School with an energy cost of 1 from your deck. Now, that's very handy, and the other ability is play up to 2 Turtle Schools with an energy cost of 1 from your deck or drop in your opponent's battle area in rest mode and negate their skills, so it means they don't get the draw from on play. And the reason why you would have that is because if you were to attack with, say, the Goku 3 cost or 5 cost, forgot what it was, and this card, it has this ability. Critical Dual Attack. This is a 1 cost green. If you have 3 or more energy and you choose one of your green Turtle Schools, Krillin Childhood, cards with an energy cost of 1 and place it in its owner's drop, when one of your cards attacks and KOs an opponent's battle card, play this card from your hand. That's why you're playing those 4 cost cards on their field, the 4k cards on their field. That way you can attack and KO them very easy. That way you can get your big boy out here pretty quick. And this card has got a great little extra ability as well. If this card is in battle, when your opponent activates a counter skill, they discard 1 card from their hand. So it's just that little bit more pressure as well. And I mean, being a 20k crit dual attack, that is amazing. This deck has a lot of crit in general. And then we've also got our, pretty much our stack here. We've got the training beginnings here, training beginnings here. I mean, more or less, this card draws 1. This one will be, look at the top 3, add 1 green Turtle School among them to your hand, place remaining cards at the bottom of your deck. And then this one itself is when this card is played, look at the top 5 cards, top of your deck, add up to 1 Turtle Scroll with a 5 or less, add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. So, that is your little 1-drop chain. You can always run less as well if you like, but I do find that the comboing with this is pretty handy. We've also got 2 Chi-Chis. This is a great card. The reason we'll get to later, but you can play this for 1 energy, and then when this card is played, you can use it as a counterplay as well, where you choose their card 2 or less and place its owner's drop instead. When this card is played, look at the top 7 cards, top of your deck, add up to 1 green Goku to your hand, shuffle your deck. And we'll get to that later, but great thing is, that's a green Goku. We've also got, that's not a green Goku, sadly, but we have this Goku. This counts as a Goku as well, don't forget, and then we've got our ultimate for the Goku. So we've also got, because we run those little 1-drop chains here, we also have this card. If you have 4 or more energy, you may choose 2 World Tournament cards in your battle area, negate their skills for the duration of the turn, and place them in the owner's drop. If you do, play this card from your hand, and you can't activate this skill again for the duration of the turn. So you got yourself a free 20k double strike as well. And then we have the Fated Rivals, of course. Now this card, we know it by now. It is a bonkers, powerful card. It's a good staple for any green deck. If you have a Saiyan or Earthling or Namekian in your Z Energy, you can bottom deck it, and then you get to play this card. When this card is played, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and KO it. And now you've got yourself a 30k barrier on the field, and it can be quite problematic sometimes for your opponent to be able to get rid of that. That's why having the 1-cost Unison is handy for early game too, because they understand if they get rid of your Unison, then it shuts off the charismatic villains. So it becomes more of a pressure of, okay, well, turn 1 or 2, he's going to have this on the field, he's going to have this on the field, and he's going to have this on the field. So that is a lot of cards on the field. So they're going to be quite pressured into having to focus on something, which leaves you still able to be able to use the other thing. Anyway, let's jump into the next one. So we have the field card here, which allows us to use this. Everyone was hyped about it to run it for the new Gohan deck, which is amazing for it. But you can also run it here, which is very forgetful for a lot of people. This is a 19k critical blocker, and because you have a field card, you can play it for 1 energy. Then we've also got the Son Goku and Oob. This is a great 1-cost, and because our leader is a world tournament, that means we can actually play it. This is a dual attack 15k deflect, and when this card is played, you choose one of their cards, 5 or less, bottom deck it. Then you look at the top 5 and look for an Earthling or world tournament that's 4 or less and add it to your hand. And what's relevant about that is it can search for your super combos. And the super combo for this deck is if your life's 5 or less, you can draw 1, gets plus 10. If you don't want to, you can also run Paragus. Paragus is also just as good, but I just do it for this because this searching is just a bit more relevant because it is a world tournament. But yeah, you can just run Paragus. It's not a problem because you're going to get 4 or less anyway. Then you've got Charismatic Villain. Of course, we know what the card does by now. We've also got the Kaiokens. We're running 3 copies of these as well. On play, they have to get rid of a card from their hand, and this is a 15k crit. It's just so good. We've got our Secret ID for some more field removal. And then we get to our counter chain here. So we're running 4 copies of this. This is the new counter for the Gohan deck specifically, but you can use it as long as you have a Saiyan leader, which luckily Turtle School on Awaken is a Saiyan leader. And this is such a good card. You can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost by discarding 1 green card from your hand. That is so good. Of course, it's limit 1, so it means you can only do that the 1 time. But you're really going to slow down your opponent. The reason being is what this card does. If you have 4 or less life, you may discard 1 card from your hand. If you do, your opponent can't attack for the turn unless they add 1 card from their hand to their Z energy. So that will happen every time, just so you know. That's really going to slow them down because you already have that little bit of hand destruction that you're picking at them constantly earlier game. That's really going to just hinder them from wanting to attack further. So it will stall for you, which is great. You don't get the bottom ability because you're not a Gohan leader, so that doesn't matter. We have 3 dormants, just because you can use these as blocker as well. So you can just turn 1, turn 2 even. Play this, keep it as a blocker, and then you can use a dormant. If they're going aggressive, you can use this as your blocker to remove it. This is just a great card. We know it by now. We've got our 2 homicidal clones. That just helps you for a little bit of self-awaken too, and it just gives you some really good defense. We don't need to defend too much with this deck because we can stall them out with these things in particular. And then we have our little boss chain for here. So we have our 3 copies of the Father-Son new 8-drop card for Gohan. This is such a good card. It is a 2-cost. If your leader is green, your opponent has 3 or more energy. Play this card from your hand and it gains barrier for the turn. So it's practically both Fated Rivals, the Piccolo and the Goku, put together. And this is a deflect double strike 35k. When this card attacks, choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, KO it. Then your opponent places 1 card from their hand in the drop. That is such a good card. And then it's got an additional ability here. If it's your turn, your opponent has 3 or more life, and this card is in battle. When you use one of your green Son Goku cards with a combo cost of 1 in a combo, your opponent places 1 card from their life in their drop. That is so good, especially for how aggressive this deck is. And I've seen this deck. I used Majin Vegeta. I like fully pimped it out, made it as pay to win as possible. And I versed this deck, and even without using my opponent using these and the new counters, I was down to 1 life legitimately, not by being able to use my ability. And the only reason I win is because I saw my ultimate. So that's the only difference. But nonetheless, this deck is absolutely bonkers. And why these things are so relevant here at the end is because of this ultimate too. So you're going to attack with your leader. Awakened side, you attack with your leader. You boost with this card. Then you pay the additional energy here. If your leader is a Green Saiyan, Earthling, or Namekian, when this card is used in a combo, choose one of your leaders, switch it to active mode, and it gains triple strike. So now you have a 25k triple strike leader that's restood to active. On top of that, you would have this additional ability here where you place this card from your drop into your Z deck face up, and then of course the additional ability from the permanent. Forget about that. Forget about it. We are going to charge this in our Z energy instead. What you do is you boost with this card. You're going to give your leader that triple strike, restand it. Then you're going to choose to charge this into your Z energy instead. Therefore, now it's in your Z energy. You can now play Fated Rivals and then bottom deck your ultimate, so you never lose your ultimate. So there you go. That's a great combination for those who didn't know. It is going to be such a good chain. I'm sure that Bandai didn't intend for that, but we got it. And I think this is going to be an amazing deck. We have some Z deck here as well. It's not too relevant, but it is still pretty good. We've got our freezers. This is more or less if you want to keep that pressure on from removing cards from their hand. It's an amazing card to be able to use. This is not that relevant, but you can use it. You can play your pretty much your bigger turtle schools. So you could play your Krillin. And then you've got your Jiren for some more unison removal. And to keep a card on the field if you need to. We've also got this to help awaken. And of course, because you can just, if you have 4 or more Z energy, you can play this card for 2 energy and it'll be a deflect double strike, which is just handy to have. You've also got the additional ability here, but it's a little tricky to use. And then for side deck, you have other options. So you've got the Goku's Kamehameha, if you want just some hard negates for itself. And then you can choose their card that is 4 or less and KO it, which is just such a good card. But I feel that because of the amount of stalling that these 2 cards do in particular, it won't be such a problem. And then we've also got our other ultimate choice that you can use. There is so many ultimates. You can even go Heron's Lineage, right? But we're trying to maximize everything efficiently. But this is another great card you can use if you don't have the Goku ultimate thingy here yet. But yeah, then we've also got the Great Saiyan Man. You could use this if you want to focus more on trying to get your Krillin on the field, because what you do is if you have too many of the 1 costs in your hand, you can just bottom deck them, even though your field card can do the same thing as well. But yeah, it can just help cycle them a bit better. And Feet Kamehameha is a little tech idea if you wanted to. If you manage to pull it off, you could technically make your leader a 40k crit triple strike to your opponent, which is insane. So yeah, that is something you can do. And yeah, this is the deck. Won't really be focusing on any turns 1, 2, and 3 for this deck quite yet, because I more or less want to see what the newer decks do against this. But I can promise you, this is a very strong deck, a very, very strong deck, without a doubt. Probably one of the most fun green decks I've seen and played so far. So this is the video. I hope you liked it. If you haven't subscribed already, do so. I appreciate it greatly. And thanks for watching. Peace. Links to the deck will be in the video description.